especially in the early stage. So this is the key.
All right, just to come out of that, as we do have breaking news at this time coming out of Uganda, the final results from Uganda's election are being announced. Let's take you there live now.
Kalembe Nancy Linda, Katumba John, Kyagulanyi Sentamu Robert, Mao Norbert, Mayambala Willie, Mugisha Muntu Greg, Mwesige Fred, Tumukunde Henry Kakurugu, and Yoweri Museveni Tubuhaburwa Kaguta. And whereas polling for the presidential elections closed at 4 p.m. on the 14th of January 2021, and whereas the Electoral Commission has ascertained the results of the presidential elections, now therefore, in exercise of the powers conferred on the Electoral Commission by Article 103, Clause 7 of the Constitution and Section 57 of the Presidential Elections Act, the Commission publishes and declares the results of the presidential elections as follows. Total number of valid votes cast for candidates, 9,978,093. Scores by each candidate. Amriat Oboy Patrick, 323,536 valid votes polled by the said candidate, which represents a percentage of 3.24 of the total valid votes cast. Kabuleta Kiza Joseph, 44,300, which represents 0.44%. Kalembe Nancy Linda, 37,469, representing 0.38%. Katumba John, 35,983, representing 0.36%. Kyagulanyi Sentam Robert, 3,475,298, 3,475,298, representing 34.83%. Mao Norbert, 55,665, representing 0.56%. Mayambala Wile, 14,657, presenting 0.15%. Mugisha Muntu Greg, 65,334, representing 0.65%. Mwesige Fred, 24,673, representing 0.25%. Tumukunde Henry Kakurugu, 50,141, representing 0.50%. Yoweri Museveni Tubuhaburwa Kaguta, 5,851,037, representing 58.64%. Total number of invalid votes, 381,386, amounting to 3.68% of the total number of votes cast. The total number of votes cast, 10,359,479, amounting to 57.22% of the total number of registered voters. Now therefore, candidate Yoweri Museveni Tubuhaburwa Kaguta, having obtained the highest number of votes in the election and the votes cast in his favor being more than 50% of the valid votes cast at the election, the Electoral Commission declares Yoweri Museveni Tubuhaburwa Kaguta elected President of the Republic of Uganda at the presidential election held on the 14th day of January 2021, dated this 16th day of January 2021.
The members of the Commission now proceed to append their signatures to the results of the election so that the process is completed. There is agreement with the results that have been published as the true results of the elections of 2021 presidential elections. And before us, we have the official seal of the Commission, which will be appended to the document by the Secretary Electoral Commission to confirm, in accordance with Article 57 of the Constitution,
page 1 as well,
which says the Commission will ascertain and publish under its seal the results of the elections. And I think that's what we see, the signing, and then the sealing, and then the declaration of the result that has been made. It goes out now that Uganda has an elected president, a president-elect. The copies of these results and the detailed results are going to be loaded on the website, and they've already been sent out to presidential candidates and the political parties which participated in this election. So the processes that are going on now are open to all in accordance with the law about declaration of results and transmission of results.
All right, we have our foreign editor, Sophie Mugwena, on standby for us to talk to us about those elections. And of course, as you heard, the Electoral Commission of Uganda declaring Yoweri Museveni the incumbent, the elected president of Uganda after winning those general elections with more than 50% of the votes. All right, let's talk to our foreign editor, Sophie Mugwena, on the latest there. Very good afternoon to you, Sophie. All right, so those results then out. The Electoral Commission declaring Yoweri Museveni the elected president. I mean, what is the latest really we should be looking at coming out of Uganda? I mean, I'm looking at stories now that Bobi Wine's wife has said that police officers at their home in Magere assaulted her on her way to their garden. So really police out there in full force. So a lot is happening at this time as the Electoral Commission declares those results.
Well, I think it's the usual story on the continent where you have leaders, old leaders who don't want to leave their positions and perhaps allow young people not only outside their parties but even in their own parties to continue perhaps take the country forward. Because when you look at President Yoweri Museveni, I mean, he has been the president of that country for quite a long time, more than 3 decades. Some people and young people in that country, they don't know any president except President Yoweri Museveni. Now, it is very difficult to dislodge a ruling party generally. And therefore, it is the story of many African countries. The other issue is the election. You don't win elections on the election day. Yes, election day voting might be peaceful and orderly. You win elections in terms of what you are offering, and you can only do that by having access to people and access to platforms like your social media, your digital, your radio, your television to communicate your message. But the opposition in that country were not given space and platform to sell themselves or their candidates. They were trying and working very hard under very difficult conditions, while the ruling party was using the state broadcaster. Get it right, it's not a public broadcaster like we have in South Africa, it is a state broadcaster. Therefore, the state was controlling that platform. And it was not going to be easy for opposition to dislodge President Yoweri Museveni. But they did well. When you check at previous elections, the numbers he got and the percentage, looking at 58 now, it means there's a shift. And for Bobby to have been able to get 34%, unfortunately, that issue of political parties, oppositions, everyone who wants to be a leader, they are on the ballot, even those who know very well that they don't command large numbers, you divide and you split the votes. And therefore, this is an outcome. But what we heard from that country also is that many ministers, 17 ministers who contested elections in their constituencies, lost their seats. And they are from President Museveni's party, the ruling party, even the vice president. So it speaks to the fact that, yes, Ugandans did exercise their vote under difficult conditions. And the message was clear. They partially wanted change, but it was not going to be easy. And now we are going to see a situation where there's going to be a clampdown on opposition, because Museveni is going to say, I have a mandate, and it has started with Baby Wine. The question is, will the continent allow Uganda to descend into anarchy and violence, because Bobby has rejected the outcome and many people are aggrieved? What is AU going to do to ensure that going forward there's peace and stability in that country?
Sophie, let's listen to a clip of Bobby Wine and what he's had to say, and then we'll come back and continue our conversation on the back of that.
Have been blocked by the military. Yes, my compound, outside one of the gates, there are more than 80 soldiers. Right now, I'm talking to you from inside the house.
Okay.
I'm talking to you from inside the house right now. Well, this regime is shameless and it can do anything. I am not afraid because I know that I'm not breaking any law, and I know that General Museveni has been using intimidation against the people of Uganda. So I am not scared. I know they are capable of doing anything, and I've prepared my mind for the work.
Okay.
That is absolute fraud. It is a lie. Whatever the Electoral Commission is announcing has no connection whatsoever with the results that are coming in from the polling stations. We have a completely different report, and all the people that were able to observe the election have a completely different report. General Museveni is fabricating those results, and that is why he has completely shut down the internet, switched off all the phone numbers of my wife and all the leadership of our party. In many cases, people were not even allowed to vote, but even in areas where people were allowed to vote, it is evident that the results are projecting more votes than the registered voters. My message to the Ugandans is that they should reject that result with all the contempt that it deserves. It is an attempt to manipulate the voices of the people of Uganda. It's an attempt. This is a coup against the will of the people of Uganda. We have put all legal, all constitutional, and all peaceful and non-violent options on the table, including peaceful protests.
All right, that clip courtesy of Reuters, just to give them a word there in terms of how we got that clip of his reaction right now to the results of the election in Uganda. Bobby Wine, the voice of the opposition leader there. Let's continue our conversation then with our foreign editor, Sophie Mugwen. All right, we're talking about the fact that, it looks as though it's heading towards some kind of tension at this point. Some analysts analysts, I've just been reading online, saying that Uganda could be headed for post-election violence as those in favor of the strongest rival, Bobby Wine, whom we heard just now, are saying that this election was anything but free and fair. Is there that likelihood then that we'll see post-election violence, and perhaps that could be the reason why there is this clampdown and lockdown and not allowing Bobby Wine to even leave his premises?
I don't know whether we are going to see a confrontation, a civil war, a confrontation within the country. Looking at the second candidate, Bobby Wine, what he stands for and what he said previously, you know, he speaks about a person who is for peace and who is for democracy. And I think he will follow the channel, go to the courts. The question is judiciary independent in that country? Because there were criticism that the Electoral Commission is not independent. We saw what happened in Kenya. In Kenya, when there were elections some few years ago, the first round of elections, President Kenyatta won, but Raila Odinga was aggrieved, threatening violence. The then former president of South Africa, who was one of the delegates or people who were delegated by the observers, leading observer mission, persuaded him to go to court rather than resorting to violence, trying by all means to ensure that there's no bloodshed. And indeed, he went to court. He won. The election results were overturned. There was a rerun. Raila won. Kenyatta won, and after that there was tension. But today they are big friends to an extent that they are now sidelining the guy who was assisting President Uhuru to win this election. That is William Ruto. Therefore, I don't know what is he going to do. You go to Malawi, a similar situation. They were aggrieved. Mbeki again and others were monitors or observers there. They encouraged them to go to court. They went to court. They won. And they went for fresh elections. And today we have the opposition leader being the president of that country. Yeah. Zimbabwe, there was a standoff. There was a court case. Unfortunately, the opposition didn't accept because their argument was that the courts are not independent in that country. So I don't know what is he going to do going forward. But if there's going to be violence in Uganda, it will be very sad because it will destabilize the entire Great Lakes region. And that Great Lakes region is very, very sensitive because you still have issues in Rwanda, in Burundi, and therefore you can't afford Uganda to be unstable. Let's hope the regional leaders, the leaders of East Africa will do something to ensure that at the end of the day, ordinary citizens or civilians, they don't lose lives because of politicians.
Yeah, you know, you talk about opposition leaders, and I'd really like to know more about the voice of opposition leaders. Let's paint a scenario. Say Bobby Wine does, have to accept at the end the results, and I mean it's a strong number for opposition leader, given the fact that Yoweri Museveni got 58.64% of the vote. Bobby Wine sitting at 34.83%. The next party after that, or the next person after that, is at 3.24% of the vote. So really, he is without a doubt the strongest of the opposition parties there. Does do the leaders of the opposition parties or the opposition parties themselves have any kind of voice in Uganda, or is it just kind of Yoweri Museveni says what he says? I mean, you look at South Africa where opposition parties do have a voice, and I wonder if that would be the case then in Uganda. What is the history there?
The opposition in Uganda is very robust. They get arrested, they get beaten, but they speak. And it is for that reason you have more than 10 candidates availing themselves. People who are brave to be on the ballot, no matter how difficult it was for them or the situation is in that country. But they were there to say, we are putting our head. And by doing that, it's a clear demonstration that they are willing to fight for what they believe in. And I think they are going to continue, because for me, when I look at the outcome, they have performed better compared to some years ago. And it speaks to how they are entrenching themselves. But the question is, going back to Parliament, will they work together to ensure that this number that they were able to amass in terms of number of members in the legislature or in Parliament will have a voice to push back whatever they want to push back, or put forward what they want to put forward, and put pressure on the ruling party to do things right. I think that's where they have to really demonstrate their will going forward. But you have a very vibrant opposition in Uganda, but the environment is not as easy as in South Africa. Take, for example, in South Africa, we write what we like about opposition parties, leaders, and including the ruling party and the president of the ruling party, who is the president of the country. We express our views without fear or favor. We go wherever we want to cover stories. But there, the media had problems, in covering this election. And therefore, the media is another pillar of democracy. And if media freedom are not exercised as it should be, it becomes a problem. And therefore, I think the other important issue is to ensure that the activists who are fighting for human rights, not politicians, human rights, will stand together to ensure that the environment is conducive for people to express their views and their will freely. And I hope President Museveni will lead in creating that space and the climate. But by arresting and sending soldiers surrounding Bobi Wine's house, you're just creating unnecessary attention and sensation. They can't blame journalists now. They are the ones. Why send soldiers and police to an opposition leader if you feel he has lost election and there's nothing? Why? I mean, who is Bobi? Bobi doesn't have a capacity, doesn't have an army. He doesn't have a military wing. It's like sending an army to Steenhuisen or to Malema. They don't have capacity. They don't have an army. But they can speak. Allow them to say whatever they want to say. And also you counter whatever they are saying with facts, and life goes on. And journalists cover everyone freely and ask questions freely to anyone, hold them accountable. That's what Museveni, the African leaders must know. That's the only way, and that's the only way you can deal with, doing away with negative attention. Don't be rude, don't be hard, because when you do that, you invite even the international community. Look now today, the report internationally. It is now a big story internationally that they have surrounded Bobi Wine's house. If they didn't, there wasn't going to be a big story. We would continue to cover the story and all that. But this sensation and the drama is caused by Museveni allowing military and the police to surround a very young man there who's speaking, and this is what young people are all about. They are very, very vocal. I mean, you know it in South Africa. Opposition parties, they write what they like, they say what they like. And you don't have to send soldiers when they are having a media briefing.
All right, thank you very much. That's our foreign editor here at SABC News, Sophie Mukwena, weighing in on the election results coming out of Uganda. And of course, as it stands, and what was declared by the Electoral Commission, Yoweri Museveni on 58.64% of the vote, Bobi Wine 34.83%, and the next candidate after that only at 3.24%, Patrick Muriat. So those are the election results as confirmed and declared by the Electoral Commission of Uganda. We'll certainly bring you more news on this. More news at the top of the hour. Do stay with us here on SA Today.